Pray the real live forever, man. What's up, my dudes? So I'm going to be talking about the early gameplays of the official Monster Energy Supercross game. I wanted to really go in here and make a video giving my full entire opinion on all the different early gameplays we've seen of the game. I know I've kind of talked about certain elements here and there, but I haven't really made a full video and actually going in here and explaining directly what I was seeing and kind of my thoughts on it and kind of how some of the gameplay has changed over time and stuff like that. So what I wanted to do is really speak on it not from just this super hardcore simulator try hard dude side of everything. Like, I wanted to actually speak from a genuine arcade fan side of things, because I am a big fan of arcade motocross games. That's what I started on. I played Reflex for 3 or 4 years straight every single day on Xbox 360 before I even knew what a motocross simulator was. So, you know, I have a lot of experience with that, and it can kind of get jaded when you see a lot of my videos are just MX Simulator videos, so you think, oh, I want every motocross game to be an MX Simulator, you know, and that's really not the truth of it. But, so let's talk about it. As just an overall physics sense of the game, obviously, you can tell it's kind of got that floaty effect to it. You know, it's not going to have your reflex level realism when it comes to the in-air physics in particular. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with it is this game is made by Milestone, which has only really been making outdoor the MXGP series, so you know they don't have a lot of experience with in-air physics, because in most of their games the jumps don't really pop you up whatsoever on a lot of the MXGP tracks that they've made in the past, so they haven't really had to worry about in-air physics too much. But now that there's a Supercross game where, you know, pert near the entire time you're on the track, you're in the air, now it's like, oh shit, now the physics are really getting tested here. Now it's like, whoa, okay, now we got to try to get this thing leveled out for in-air physics, you know. And that's why you're seeing such a kind of bizarre looking game, is because they don't really know what they're doing. I mean, it's just the truth. They don't know what they're doing. They've never done this before. So yeah, that's kind of where you're at. But, I mean, you can obviously tell the whoops are way rolled off. That's one of the weirdest aspects of some of the gameplay I've seen. I do not understand why the whoop sections are so rolled off. It's like, I mean, really? Like, why even have a whoop section in there if it just looks like a little bit of roughness? I mean, it doesn't even look like whoops. Like, what's the point, I guess, is what I'm saying. And what's the point of really having jumps if coming up short, there's no risk to it whatsoever? Like, why do you not see people crash when they, you know, completely just bonsai case a main triple? Like, why are they not crashing when they do that? I don't understand, but that really worries me about the game, just in a skill gap sense and in a replayability sense. Even for an arcade game, I'm not even talking about simulator, I'm talking about just for an arcade game, you have to have some level of skill gap and risk on a Supercross track, because that's kind of the whole point to a Supercross track. You understand what I'm saying? Like, in real life, if you jump a main 85-foot triple and you come up short on that motherfucker, I promise you're going to be crying afterwards. Like, it's not going to be pretty. You're not just going to bounce off of it all happy-go-lucky and be like, woo, we're good, man. Let's just go case another 5 jumps in a row. Like, that just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? And I understand it's an arcade game. It's not real life. It's not a simulator. I get all that. But, like, even with Reflex, like, it felt like there was a certain level of risk to coming up short on things, and I think that's where the big gap sort of comes from, is with Reflex. Even with the stock tracks, they almost had a little bit of a bigger than real life fantasy feeling to the Supercross tracks. Like, the jumps were probably a little bit bigger, tracks were a little bit wider than what you might expect to be like exact replica of real life tracks. Whereas, and that's what gave them that fun factor. That's what gave it, like, oh, this is so much fun hitting this quad out of this corner, or whatever, you know, hitting this really, really big triple jump. And it had that certain cool, like, fantasy, super difficult Supercross tracks element to it, even though there was some that were a little tighter, a little easier here and there, but just in an overall sense, I felt like it had a little bit more of that fantasy feeling, and it gave you that fun factor, like I was saying. But with the official Monster Energy Supercross game, this game is like trying to make a exact replica versions of tracks, but it's just arcade physics. So those two things don't really go very well together, in my opinion. I just don't feel like they do. I feel like if you're going to have exact replica stuff, you might as well be playing a simulator at that point, That's the only way you're really going to get your fun factor out of exact replica tracks. That's just from my personal opinion and personal experience of playing replica style tracks on the PC version of Reflex. Like, I mean, they're cool for a cold minute, but it basically just gets boring quicker than you can say Bob's your uncle. And you're like trying to get on one of those more fantasy style fun tracks pronto ASAP is basically what it comes down to. You're like, oh, okay, that was kind of cool playing on an exact replica filling track 1-to-1 scale type shit, but at the end of the day, it's an arcade game and they're meant to be more fun factor. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I feel like that's why a lot of people love the arcade games, because there is a little bit of fantasy to the tracks. There is a little bit of bigger scale style to the tracks, and so you get more of a feeling of like, whoa, this is fun, and I can do these crazy big jumps that, is not exactly how real life would be, and that's what a lot of like arcade style fans say about motocross games is like, man, it's not meant to be super realistic, man. It's just meant to be an arcade game. Well, what the fuck do you call this official Monster Energy Supercross game that's got every single track is 1-to-1 replica and it's trying to be more like a simulator, but yet the physics and the feeling on the bike is nothing like a simulator. That's an aspect to this game I don't know, dog. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to you. I don't know, man. I mean, it's cool to see, like, replica-style tracks in an arcade game. Don't get my words twisted, but as far as just, like, an overall fun factor, I don't know, man. And I think it would be so much better if it had, like, I don't know. I don't even really know. Because you always get to that sort of conundrum in your head where it's like, well, maybe it would work pretty good if like coming up short made you crash easier and the whoops are just a little bit bigger, and maybe it would work out having these more 1-to-1 scale replica tracks. But then you start thinking like, well, then the physics need to be better. Well, then you're turning it into a simulator, and it's like, fuck, you can't do that because it's an arcade game. So you see what I'm saying? Like, man, I mean, I want to love it so bad. I do. Like, people think I, like, have this preconceived hate and just, oh, fuck everything else that's not MX Simulator. That's the complete opposite. Everything in my power, I want to love this game. I do. I honestly do. Everything about what it is, what it's trying to do, everything about it, I want to love that, but it's just hard to do it. It's just hard to do it because it's like they're trying to warp, like, simulator element tracks with a completely non-risk involved like motocross style physics system in a supercross game, and it's just like, I don't know, man, it's just all over the place. But yeah, I mean, I think we can all agree the whoops need to be bigger, just flat out, no questions asked. I feel like the whoops need to be bigger, and I mean, why wouldn't they make them bigger? One of the reasons is it probably makes the damn rider look like he's, just hup chucking fucking bunny fucking, like, I don't know what, with the physics in the game. You gotta, that's probably why they didn't put those bigger style whoops in there, because the physics system's not quite up to par. And they've kind of tried to fix their whip system a little bit here and there, but obviously you can still see where it looks like the rider is like struggling on the bike. It looks like the rider it's like the model of the rider is not moving fluently with the bike. And that's just something you'll notice different from like seeing reflex gameplay. I'm not talking, I mean, reflex on PC is different than console. I'm talking more about reflex on console, like 360. Dude, that shit looked fluent as fuck with like the rider and the bike and the way you would naturally come off the jump faces and the way you could like naturally build your own whip style in that game and everything. And it just, and it's not just like to totally hate on this game. A lot of these recent games have been like that, where they just don't have that fluent arcade motocross feeling. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like, it just doesn't have it. It just doesn't have it, man. I'm talking about even MX versus ATV Alive. I thought it was better than a lot of these most recent ones, but I still feel like it was missing it. It was just missing that like reflex magic, you know? And then when you went into like MX versus ATV Encore, MX versus ATV Supercross, you went to like the MXGP series, all of those games were just missing that, what you call the it element, you know? It's just missing it. It's missing, there's something about the physics of the game is just not there. It's just not there, man. So either way, it's hopefully they can get it figured out, you know? Hopefully down the line we'll see a better game out there. But as of right now, I mean, you can't like think that this game is going to be like a better than reflex style game. It's just not. It's just, there is no way that this game is going to be better and have more longevity than reflex. It's just not going to happen, period. And like when you talk about the older motocross games like Unleashed and Untamed and all that kind of shit, that was before they had the two-stick steering. Okay, that was before you had that like super realistic rider, I don't even know what they call it, and I guess they call it reflex movements, or I don't know what they call it, but that was before they even had that sort of like technology. That was before they even really got into that. So, I mean, those games, I feel like they were okay for the time zone they were in and what was going on with them. Like Unleashed and Untamed, I feel like those are two pretty good games for the times they were in, and the physics of the bike and the risk to coming up short was there. And, you know, if you overjump something, you're going to pop off the bike. And if you know, there's the physics was there for that time zone of the game. But it's like, once we hit reflex, it's like we hit this pinnacle. And then everything else after that it just went downhill. It just went downhill, man. No other way to explain it. It's just downhill from there. And I mean, MX Simulator is kind of a whole different animal, but just talking about arcade games, it's, you know, you get to reflex and that's your pinnacle. And I mean, nothing's gotten to that from that point on. Nothing's gotten to that on the track designs. Nothing's gotten to that on the skill gap. Nothing's gotten to that on the physics system. Nothing's gotten to that on the whip system, the fluidity of it. And even, I mean, it's just like even the gameplay and the controller gameplay settings and how everything was in Reflex. It was just a perfect arcade motocross game. It really was. I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. And I guess, you know, Milestone is a different team, so they're having to, you know, build their own sort of, obviously, physics system and the whole 9 yards of it. But then you had the MX versus ATV people that went to Alive, and then, like, Rainbow, they didn't have Rainbow Studio in there anymore, or whatever the fuck. They went to, like, another team thing. Nordic took over, and then the games went to shit, kind of how, you know, Call of Duties went to shit. All the old school dudes are fucking gone from Infinity Ward and all that. It's the same difference. Like, if you lose the people that were there when they were working on it, the games are going to go to shit. I mean, it would be like $1 million man to have everyone back in the studios that were there when they made Reflex. Get all those motherfuckers back. I don't know where they went. I don't know how much you paid them before, but you need to triple their pay and get them back on the team and put them on Milestone's team. I don't care what you do. Just get those dudes back in business. Whoever was in charge of making the physics and the tracks and everything of Reflex, them dudes deserve a damn Grammy, you know? I mean, it's like, those are the people that know what the hell they're doing. I mean, the graphics of, you know, the Milestones game has probably been one of their biggest points, and kind of like their cornering. They've always had a decent cornering physics system to their games. They've always had something that's more based around the motocross elements of things. You know, like where the back tire will kind of have this realistic spin to it. You know, when you get on the gas, kind of has this feeling to it. It's kind of cool in the corners on the different MXGP games and stuff. But they've always missed a little bit of that in-air physics and like actual risk to coming up short, or that's always been missing in Milestone games physics. This ain't like some new shit. It's been that way since day one. They've always been missing that element. You know, and they haven't been able to really find that fluidity whip style that Reflex had to it. So, I mean, if you could take like the graphics of an MXGP or the official Monster Energy Supercross game and then get the actual physics team of Reflex and get the track design team of like Reflex mixed with maybe a couple of the track design teams from Milestone, mix all those motherfuckers together and you got a damn golden ass game, dude. I mean, it would be golden. Like, seriously, golden pony boy level. I mean, would that not just be the perfect game? I mean, seriously, and that's just talking about arcade games and just within themselves. I mean, you could, like, say, oh, JLV needs to get in there with all those dudes and make a game, but then it would be kind of like a simulator. You could have, like, a simulator mixed with an arcade game. That's not really what I was talking about. I was talking more just, like, arcade only, but, you know, I mean, the dudes that made Reflex, they are the arcade physics gods, all right? So, and I mean, at this point, you could say that Milestone is the graphics god of these motocross games. You could say that. I mean, I'm not questioning that whatsoever. They all have their own specialty, you know? But the downside of that is motocross games are not just all about graphics. You know, that's probably one of the least concerning things, at least for your more hardcore style fans. It's way more about the physics and the fluidity of the bike and the movement of the rider and the track designs and the skill gaps and all that kind of stuff. That's way more important than graphics at the end of the day. So, you know, it's just kind of one of those things. I mean, hopefully they can get her better in the future, but yeah, it's just, that would be cool if for some way that all the teams could come together and make a good motocross game. I think it would just be way better in the long run in that sense. Either way, I appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.